Hello, Star Trek fans. Welcome to ReBingeIT. This is the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we are rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 4, Episode 21, The Omega Directive. This episode aired April 15th, Tax Day, 1998.
I think the name of this one is quite impressive. This is a good name for an episode.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
Well, before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode, which was Vis-a-Vis?
B'Elanna can do better.
Yes. Yes, she can. It was a decidedly mediocre episode.
Yeah.
Did we ever mention that the alien was Bulldog from Frasier? I can't remember if we talked about that.
I don't think we did, no.
No. Well, that's who was playing it.
Yeah.
What was his name? Because you could never pronounce it. Steph. Yeah.
It was just if you had Steph and Ship together, it became physically impossible to say that.
I know, it's funny sometimes how your tongue just can't get around two words. It was mediocre, but really they kind of ruined the whole story with the Tom stuff. That's what brought it down.
Yeah. I think it was an interesting play on episodes like The Passenger from DS9, those sort of classic take over the body of the other one. But this one, I thought, in some ways, it was a good theoretical story no, they don't just take over your body. They copy your body. It's almost like a changeling kind of thing. So great concept. Sometimes, doesn't actually turn into a good episode.
Yeah, I think it takes really good writing to do something like that in 46 minutes, because what they tried to do was show Tom's character as, going really strongly in one direction at the beginning so they could sort of continue it through the episode. But it's just like when you don't like that or you don't buy into that premise, then the rest of it falls apart. And it's just like, what are you doing?
And the 15 seconds to solve your deep-seated problems with your personality.
Yeah, that was bad. Let's move on to a very different episode.
We've talked about that one way too more than we should.
Yeah. And I have a lot of notes, so I think we have a lot to talk about today. So we probably better get going.
Buckle in, everyone. This could be a long one.
And then watch it be 38 minutes. We start with Seven finishing up her regeneration cycle and beginning her day with a log. The best part of this log is when she talks about how she'll be working on a project with Ensign Kim, and she's added 17 minutes to the task schedule for Ensign Kim's usual conversational digressions.
He likes to chat. And what's funny is later on, I think we get an example of this when he's working with Tuvok.
Oh, for sure.
I think Harry is just...
He's chatty.
Chatty.
Mm-hmm.
I see nothing wrong with that.
Yes, says the chattiest person I know. By the way, in Seven's log here, Jerry Ryan transposes the numbers of the stardate, and she says 15781.2 instead of 51781.2.
Oh.
And I would just like to say that I'm the one who noticed this, and James did not. He was arguing with me that it was perfectly fine what she said.
Wow.
And I had to show him the closed captions to prove my point.
I think listeners should make a note of this. This is the first time Kim has ever cared about a stardate.
It's very true. I just knew the one at the beginning was wrong. I'm like, wait a minute.
This could be actually an indication. Seven, because she's becoming more human, is now becoming...
Oh, she's fallible now.
Yeah.
It could be. In the mess hall, Seven finds Harry, who is late to their scheduled meeting time. So he's already making her schedule a mess.
He's already annoying her.
Yeah. He's playing Calto with Tuvok, which, if you remember back in Season 3, Tuvok promised to teach Harry how to play this. Harry is hemming and hawing about his next move because he claims to be close to winning for the first time. Seven impatiently grabs the stick from his hand and adds it to the puzzle, finishing it with a win. Tuvok says, impressive. And she says, elementary spatial harmonics. Burn.
Yeah. So, Tuvok, at this point, making a mental note, do not play Seven at Calto.
Well, he might actually like playing her.
I have the feeling she would just win every time.
That's true, and that might impact his superiority complex.
Yeah, oh yeah.
The Vulcans don't like that. Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of Harry, I have to bring this up. We forgot something.
What's that?
In the episode where everyone was getting letters, why didn't Harry get a letter from Libby?
Yeah. Where was his Dear John letter?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably in the letter from his parents. Oh, by the way, Libby moved on. Libby married someone else. Well, this annoys Harry, of course, because he lost his chance to win the game.
Yep.
And he follows Seven out. And then in the hallway, Harry asks if there's anything Seven doesn't know. Like, is there something she's not good at? She says each drone's experiences are processed by the collective and only useful information is retained, which I find that interesting because we talked about how could she store so much information?
Yes.
Well, It's because all the extraneous stuff has been filtered out.
Which is an interesting idea because things like your cultural norms, let's say manners, all stuff you could see as like fluff. If you got rid of all of those.
Personal relationships.
Yes. And you only focused on actual, useful.
What you called useful, yeah.
Or useful
it's
to the
subjective.
board, information. I imagine it would produce a very distilled set of knowledge.
Right. Yeah, like it goes through a filter of what helps the collective.
Yeah.
And it's probably usually scientific knowledge.
Right.
In some way, yeah. Or maybe
medical,
logistical or
anything.
medical, yeah. But nothing cultural.
What were their cultural practices? No idea.
Although there's many times in this episode where Seven mentions mythologies of other cultures, so she at least knows of the existence, so it wasn't completely filtered out.
Okay, I have a headcanon to explain that.
When we get there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Harry says you must be the most intelligent person alive, and she agrees.
Her and Tuvok should be the absolute best of buddies.
Yeah, they have a lot in common.
Yeah.
I liked the relationship they were building in Year of Hell. I wish they'd get that back up and going again.
Yeah.
So Harry says, since she's the most intelligent person alive, he's like, so what do you need the rest of us for? In a lighthearted way. But then when she looks at him, he realizes he doesn't want her to answer that. I actually thought that was really cute. For a change, he wasn't being weird. Or maybe she's just gotten into the swing with him now and understands this is just part of the process with Harry. You just have to chat.
Yeah, well, I think big part of this episode is more of the humanization of Seven.
Agreed. Well, suddenly the ship drops out of warp and we jump to the bridge. The ship was hit by some kind of shockwave and suddenly all sensors are offline. The Greek symbol for Omega pops up on all the screens and the screens say standby. Chuckle says his command codes don't work, and just then Janeway enters and says, I'll take care of this. She clears the screens and says to send all sensor data on the particle wave to her ready room. Like you have to send a phone call to her ready room, to her office.
I feel Janeway should run in waving hands going, ignore everything, don't look at that. Everything's fine.
Nothing to see here.
No big deal. I do think they should be a little bit more subtle with the screens of less obvious.
Than a giant symbol of the thing you don't want anybody to know about.
Oh, I know. It should come up and say, error, call MIS.
It should just come up and say 400. Something like that.
404.
Or maybe 500 in this case. Yeah, 404. Geek jokes. Janeway tells Tom to hold position and says she can't explain right now and no one should talk about what just happened.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. And we cue the opening credits. A solid opening, I thought. Some humor, suspense, a surprise, something we've never seen before. It was good.
Writing Harry in a way that I think fits with the earlier Harry and wasn't this weird, what the hell do we do with Harry writing?
Agreed. Yeah,
so
good.
much better than we've seen Harry as of late.
In her ready room, Janeway tells the computer to seal the doors, and she asks for the secure data file Omega 1. The computer says sensors have detected the Omega phenomenon within 1.2 light years.
Yeah.
Magil Barrett-Roddenberry also says, implement the Omega Directive immediately. All other priorities have been rescinded.
Okay, I was thinking about the moment in the original Alien movie where Ripley finds the special order in the computer. The crew is expendable.
Oh, right. Yeah, this is similar.
What about the crew? Not such a priority anymore, Janeway.
In engineering, Chakotay is handing out orders and saying this is a highly classified mission. B'Elanna is to install multi-phased shielding around the warp core, and Tom is supposed to modify a shuttlecraft to withstand extreme thermal stress. B'Elanna says the crew has heard rumors of a secret message about an Omega Directive.
Yeah.
Not so secret already.
Well, maybe it's the fact they had this giant Omega symbol on all their screens.
Yes.
You could try and be a little subtle.
The word Omega gets Seven's attention, but Chuckle says to stop gossiping about it and get to work.
Yeah.
He tells Seven the captain wants to see her, and she says, I thought she might. That was interesting.
I thought two things here. Is this the only time we see B'Elanna in the episode?
Yes, I have a note about that. Would you like me to tell you what happened?
Yes.
After filming this scene, Roxanne Dawson went into labor, so she is not in the rest of the episode.
Oh, funny.
She's supposed to be later when they're giving a briefing. She's supposed to be in that scene, but yeah, she was off having a baby.
Oh my gosh. Second thing, I thought Chakotay was actually being a pretty good first officer here.
Mm-hmm.
He's backing up the captain. Even if he doesn't know the exact reason, he's still on her side. So I think this is good first officer.
Yeah, there's certainly been situations where I haven't been privy to something happening above me, but I've had to give a message of, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Right? This is a thing we have to do. I can't explain it. I haven't been told yet, but let's go, right? This is the direction that we're going. And I think that's a pretty good way to do it rather than just barking orders and saying, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
It's just like, look, I don't know anything either. We're going to know. He knows that eventually he's going to know what's going on. So, he's showing a little bit of trust in his leadership.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I think he does a good job here. Mm-hmm. And I always think it's a good idea to tell people to stop gossiping. That's just a good idea in general. I have done that many times.
The problem is on such a small ship, everything is going to result in gossiping because, at the end of the day, you're all stuck together. There isn't a lot to do other than maintain the ship and you're heading home. People are going to gossip about everything.
Yeah, for sure. Off we go to Janeway's ready room, and she has data pads piled on her desk, naturally. When Seven comes in, it seems that since Starfleet captains have been assimilated, Seven is already in on the secret of the Omega Directive.
Oh, yeah.
She asks the captain if she's going to carry out the directive, and Janeway says yes. She wants Seven to help her destroy it, but Seven, being Seven, says she won't help do that. It should be harnessed. The Borg were able to create a single Omega molecule and keep it stable for 1/1,000,000,000th of a nanosecond before it destabilized. Then they didn't have enough boronite to keep working on it, but the search for it has continued ever since. When Seven argues that wanting to destroy it shows Starfleet's ignorance and fear, Janeway asks her how many Borg were lost when their experiment failed.
Okay, I love this.
Turns out 29 vessels and 600,000 Borg were lost that day, but Seven says, that's irrelevant.
Okay, I feel that is very relevant to the situation.
It feels relevant.
Yeah.
Janeway says if someone out here is experimenting with Omega, she's under orders to destroy it rather than put the entire quadrant at risk. So the captain says she'll do this with or without Seven, but Seven says she's been waiting many years to observe this molecule firsthand, so she will assist. She calls her interest in Omega a desire, saying it's infinitely complex yet harmonious. To the Borg, it represents perfection.
That was interesting.
Janeway calls it the Borg's holy grail.
There's some interesting things here.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I have to complain. Seven still refers to herself and the Borg as we. They need to continue that deprogramming. You're not Borg, you're human. You have choices. When you were Borg, you had no ability for self-determination. You're no longer Borg. And reinforce that, because I think letting her do that is almost reinforcing the barrier between her and the crew and other humans. Yeah,
but we also maybe wouldn't be interested in hearing her corrected every time she said it. I don't know. I get your point, but I have sort of a counter argument in this moment because she actually says she waited for this particle or another chance to see it. She doesn't say we. And I would have expected her in that moment to have said we, because she's implying she had her own personal thoughts about this thing.
That's a good point.
As a Borg, while she was the Borg.
Which would be impossible if you're a Borg, so
maybe she is starting to peel away.
Yeah.
I don't know, because is it a mistake? Or did she mean she? That's my question.
I'm going to go with Seven did mean she, herself.
I know one of the things that you questioned about this episode was whether or not it was kind of messing with the canon of Borg. And I wonder if it's doing it on purpose. Maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but maybe it's showing there are some cracks in the so-called perfection. It doesn't always work exactly how they claim it works. Because if she's got her own personal thoughts or desires coming out while she was actually a drone, then there's something else going on there that we don't know about. So it's, maybe it's just not quite as perfect as the Queen claims.
Hey, that would fit. The Borg do put their own spin on things.
Yeah. But also we do have writing challenges, so it could just be the writing. Like, oh yeah, we forgot that.
How generous do you want to be?
I'm feeling generous today. It's Christmas. It's fine.
And some of my other thoughts here is, it sounds like a really good way to wipe out the Borg would be to give them a load of this boronite and say, have at it, kids, and, watch them blow themselves up when they keep on trying to synthesize it.
As long as they run out of Borg before they figure it out.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Once they figure it out, then they destroy everybody else. So you'd have to keep your eye on it.
And I have to question, it's not that a perfect molecule. If after you synthesize it, it explodes, destroying everything for light years around it. I think their definition of perfection might be imprecise.
But I wonder if part of the lack of its ability to stabilize when synthesized is part of its perfection. Like it's protecting itself, or I don't know. I don't really understand the science here because I'm not a scientist.
Well, it's like you're making a molecule and the first thing it does is blow everything around it to hell.
Yeah, but in its explosion, it may have been, remember, part of the Big Bang, so it may have just created something.
Oh, that's human mythology.
Well, according to Seven. But maybe the explosion isn't imperfect.
Oh, this perfect particle that's immensely powerful and explodes, and that's what kind of attracts them to it.
I mean, maybe that's what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
Perfectly. It's kind of like, if you look at it as a story parallel with the Borg, they're not as perfect as they think either.
So this thing it's perfection, but the downside to it is it blows things up.
It blows up.
But it's really cool.
I don't know. Again, not a scientist.
There's probably, research chemists listening to this episode or watching the actual TV episode and just going, oh God, this is the equivalent of it's a Unix system.
I'm sure it is, because how could a single molecule cause such destruction? I mean, it seems crazy. I think as we go along, we find we're trying to do a parallel to the atom bomb, right? I think that's what's sort of happening here. Yeah. So I guess we got to look at it that way.
That is a good parallel, yes.
My other question in this scene is, why on earth would Janeway believe that Seven really would help, even though she said she will? Because she has shown she's going to do whatever she wants. Why would she not see this as a risk to her own plan?
It is extremely trusting, considering what happened just a few weeks ago when, let's face it, Janeway teed her up with species 8472, and Seven was the one who transported him off the ship. This might be a similar kind of thing. Or it runs the risk of it.
It certainly does. And I could see it as a leadership technique that you continue to give someone that you're trying to mentor. You continue to give them a little bit more rope. But this seems so dangerous.
Yes.
I don't know that this is the rope you want to give her. Although at the same time, I think there is something that might impact her own destruction as well. In this case, Seven, right? And before she was trying to protect herself. And this time, there would be some of that mixed in here.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So maybe that's it.
If it could result in her own destruction, she might be a little more cautious, whereas her previous actions were to save herself.
And that was out of fear. Janeway should bring that up every time Seven says something about her acting out of fear. Janeway should say, remember when you beamed away the Hirogen and 8472? That's because you were afraid for your life. Yeah. Anyway. Regardless of maybe common sense, the captain is like, great, I'm glad you're going to help. Go assemble your data and report back. Another thing in the scene is when Seven says the orders from Starfleet are based on fear, Janeway, who walks through literal fire, says sometimes fear should be respected. It's like, yeah, you should try it sometime.
Janeway, the woman who defeated fear?
That's right. Drat. There were some moments in that episode that was so good.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's also the how much brain damage episode.
Yes, it is.
One of my favorite lines of Janeway's ever. We go to sickbay, and Janeway is asking the doctor for erythrosine. I was dictating into my iPad when taking these notes, and it was funny to watch the iPad try to interpret what I said, because it will flip through words while it's trying to land on, what words it thinks I used.
Yeah.
And it landed on urethra ion. Because I left it in my notes because I'm like, that's funny.
Oh, dear.
Well, anyway, the doctor asks if she's planning to stroll through a supernova because the erythrosine is used for the most severe cases of theta radiation poisoning. This generates a classic eye roll from Janeway because she just wants him to follow her orders, and eventually he does, telling her to please be careful.
Well, you've seen similar things with Bashir and Cisco.
Yep.
I want some biomimetic gel, wasn't it? What do you want it for? Shut up. Give it to me.
Yeah, shut up and give it to me. I'm going to put this in my log. All right.
And underline it, too.
Now we go to the cargo bay where Seven tells the captain that readings from the shockwave indicate not one, but hundreds of Omega molecules. Uh-oh. Janeway is shocked. This changes the mission, at least her plan for the mission.
Yeah, one molecule blew up 29 Borg ships, and they found hundreds of them.
Indeed.
Nice.
Now we go to Harry and Tuvok building a bomb. Harry is asking a bunch of questions, which Tuvok is not answering. Janeway drops in and says, change of plans. I need a bigger bomb.
Yep.
When she leaves, Harry says one of the other ensigns thinks this is related to species 8472.
Yep.
I do kind of like, you mentioned this earlier, but I do like the ongoing joke that Harry's just a big gossip.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
In this scene here, I think we're seeing exactly what Seven is talking about. Harry is just chatty. I expect he chats to everybody on the ship.
Yeah, because he's got everybody's story.
Yeah. And he's got all the theories from the other crew members. And he's technical, and he probably talks to a lot of technical people, so they're going to be coming up with the wildest stuff.
Yeah, we've been talking about Tuvok's podcast, but maybe Harry has a conspiracy theory podcast. That's not good. Yeah. It's an underground podcast. Only a few people know about it.
Harry has the underground podcast on Voyager.
But this theory about 8472 is dumb, because why would that be a secret? That doesn't make any sense.
I think it falls into, this is why I say people would gossip and, speculate wildly.
Yeah.
So you would end up with all this gossip and rumors. And Harry's, this is showing he's a wonderful conduit of it.
Yeah. Well, he also tries to share more gossip with Tuvok, who is truly disinterested.
Tim Ross is so funny here. He has got this wonderful look on his face through the whole thing of,
I love it.
I just wish Harry would be quiet.
But of course, even though he says no, Harry continues. Yeah. He thinks it's a secret plan to get them home, but Tuvok is just like, no, I'm not talking about it. It's a very good scene.
I loved it.
In Astrometrics now, Janeway tells Chuckles she's not allowed to tell him much, but does want to at least give him some warnings.
Yeah.
She'll be leaving on a shuttle with Seven, and she says, we'll either succeed or long-range sensors will detect a large explosion, and we won't be returning. It's like, oh man. And then even worse, you'll have less than 10 seconds to jump to warp to get out of here. Chakotay says he doesn't believe Starfleet would order a captain to go on a suicide mission, and he assumes that this shuttle excursion is actually her idea, and she's trying to keep the crew out of danger. Good guess.
It would fit with this captain.
Yeah. When asked why she can't share more, she reminds him that we've encountered situations where information has been taken from us by force, and I can't allow this knowledge to get out. He understands her argument, but says, wouldn't this mission have a better chance of success with everyone behind you working together? Yeah. She isn't willing to risk the crew's lives because of her obligation to Starfleet. But Chuckles says, we can limit the classified info to the senior staff and take every security precaution, except don't tell Harry.
Yeah.
He says, don't do this alone. She thinks about it, realizing the job is so much bigger than she thought, and she says, assemble the troops.
I do like the consistency of Chakotay in this episode. He was backing up the captain earlier, he was on board, and I like this where he is pushing her with the message of, together, we might be able to do whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah.
And the way he manages to actually talk her around, almost by using her same kind of Starfleet rhetoric.
Right.
And he didn't say this, but I think one of the points should be, you're not in the Alpha Quadrant. Is following the default protocols on things like security a bad idea?
Well, I do think that's what he was implying.
Yeah.
Because he says something like, Voyager's alone out here. Right? He does mention that. And he also says, I can't believe that this was the directive, that the captain should go on a suicide mission. And it isn't the directive, because she talks later about how, no, they would send a team in. Starfleet would send in a team if this had happened in the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get her to look at it like, we are in a different situation. We've had to do this before, where we've had to make a decision that doesn't align with what we would do in the Alpha Quadrant. So I do feel like he's leaning on that. And when she sort of stops and thinks about it, in my mind, in my headcanon, that's what she's saying to herself. She's just like, can I solve this problem on my own? No. Would I be expected to in the Alpha Quadrant? No. So what am I doing?
Okay, that's good, because I was wondering whether I was making that up.
No. I think that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
So now we do assemble the troops. We're in the briefing room, which is too green. We need some color upgrades on Voyager. This green, it's so ugly.
Put some plants in there.
No, that's green. That's more green. Let's get some color.
Put some poinsettias in there then.
Yeah, they don't have a cat. Anyway, she tells the staff that if they were in the Alpha Quadrant, Starfleet would be sending in a specialized team, but that's not possible out here. So she tells them the story. Omega is the most powerful substance known to exist and is a threat to the entire galaxy. I mean, that does sound bad. Starfleet tried to harness the molecule before into an inexhaustible power source, but in the experiment, they were only able to stabilize it for a fraction of a second, and then catastrophe. It destroyed a research center, killing 126 of Starfleet's leading scientists, and the explosion left subspace ruptures in that region, making warp travel impossible. That's very bad. Janeway says her orders are to destroy Omega with whatever means necessary. If a large-scale Omega explosion occurs, we'll lose the ability to go to warp forever. Dun, dun, dun.
So they basically lose warp travel across the whole galaxy.
Mm-hmm. And remember, in Discovery Season 3, that's what happened. They lost warp travel.
Yeah, because of the destruction of dilithium, right?
Even though the details of what happened weren't the same, it was still sort of similar in that it was like this far-reaching thing that had happened. But in serialized television, instead of taking an idea that maybe you could squeeze into this one episode and then just forget about it and move on to the next thing, you hinge your entire season on it.
Right.
So if it's not a great idea or doesn't resonate correctly, then you end up with this thing across the entire season that people just keep going, well, that's dumb, well, that's dumb, well, that's dumb. Whereas here, in a single episode, people can go, well, that's dumb, but then we just move on and we don't talk about it again.
Yeah, next week will be something different.
Yeah, but I really find that frustrating when we pick on Discovery about something that like every other show did. And we sort of, pretend like, no, this is only Discovery that does these things. It's like, no, it really isn't. In a log now, Janeway is apprehensive and says she knows how Einstein must have felt about the atom bomb and how Marcus must have felt about the Genesis device, watching helplessly as science took a destructive course. I do like the Wrath of Khan reference.
I don't know if I'd say Carol Marcus watched helplessly. I mean, she did build the device that could terraform an entire planet in minutes.
But it wasn't meant to be a weapon.
That still doesn't seem like a, whoops, I didn't know it would do that.
No, true. But in her mind, it was something useful. But it, it could have been turned into a weapon. And that's how Khan used it.
Well, remember when Bones heard about it? 2 seconds later, he's like, you can destroy things and turn them into your preferred version of life. Bones got it instantly.
Yeah, it's not quite the same thing as someone being afraid of what could happen with their theory.
Yeah. Well, I guess this falls under the Marcus she was so focused on the can we, did anybody bother asking should we?
In the cargo bay, Janeway finds Seven has already veered a bit from her orders and developed a harmonic resonance chamber meant to contain and stabilize Omega. She says the torpedo plan may not be enough, and this chamber could be allowed to dissolve the molecule. Janeway, at first, she's nervous about what Seven says, but then she's impressed, saying, we might need this.
I mean, Janeway could also ask the question, so it blew up 29 Borg ships. Your technique didn't work last time. Why is it going to work now?
Well, that was 220 years ago or something, right? So maybe they've learned. I guess that's her theory, Seven's theory anyway. As they work now, we learn the Borg discovered Omega 229 years ago via assimilation and have been chasing it since then. Janeway says her people had their own theories, including this molecule being the reason for the Big Bang. Seven calls it a creation myth, like any other.
Okay, Janeway saying her people? Seven is her people. Seven's...
Yeah, being our people?
Yes.
Interesting. Well, I guess because Seven is standing there talking about the Borg, so she's responding in kind. But yes, she should have said our people. She just said your people, Seven.
Seven, you're one of us.
Yeah. But she wasn't raised as part of that or with that story, I guess. Chakotay calls Janeway to the bridge, and on her way out, she tells Seven she's in charge of the project and can use whatever resources and personnel she needs. I'm not sure Janeway thought that through before she said that, because what kind of project management experience does Seven actually have that is relevant to doing this with the Voyager crew?
I also feel giving her that wider latitude, you might end up in a situation like when Miles O'Brien gave free reign to Nog.
Oh, yeah. That was the one with Sisko's desk?
Correct.
Yeah. But in the end, he gets everything sorted out. Even though he's got like 1,000 crazy plans. That's a good episode.
The episode is Treachery, Faith, and the Great River.
That's a good one, yeah.
It is a great episode.
On the bridge, we've arrived at a planetary system with pre-warp technology. Tom says there's a lot of subspace damage in the region. Eventually, they detect an M-class moon with what looks like the remnants of a gigantic explosion. Yeah. There are high levels of radiation and some life signs, though, and so we decide we're going down.
As Harry reports it, the explosion destroyed 300,000 square kilometers. That's like the state of Arizona. I note that as it's a pre-warp society, they really wouldn't care if the Omega particle destroys subspace.
No, they don't even know that that's a problem.
From their perspective, it's just we blew up a moon, big deal.
Right.
You got a whole load more moons before we have to start worrying about it.
But you might run out of scientists. Things on the planet are grim, with bodies and destruction everywhere. One of the injured scientists says there was an accident and they lost containment. Yeah, obviously.
So if this explosion was so powerful, why isn't everyone vaporized?
Yeah, especially the ones who are this close to the particles.
Right.
Yeah, that's very questionable.
Also, when Janeway was wanting to beam down, she was talking about it on the bridge, in the open, about the Omega molecule. There's lots of other people who aren't the senior staff on the bridge. Have they all been issued earplugs?
I don't know. I think they got a little fuzzy on exactly what it was that they were sharing with the bridge crew and what they weren't. I mean, they probably aren't sharing they could still be sharing that this is a dangerous thing they need to destroy because there was this big explosion. So I don't know that that's a big secret, but it might be a big secret that it's actually something that could be galaxy destroying.
Okay.
The size of the problem and also what happened with the Starfleet scientists, right? They're not talking about that. So maybe they needed to make clear this was a dangerous thing that they were trying to destroy so that everybody knew they needed to be extra cautious. I'm not sure that part would have to be top secret.
But now the bridge crew would know there's a particle called the Omega particle that's extremely dangerous.
They all knew it when it came up on the screens. They all knew Omega. We're not good at secrets. Janeway tells the injured scientists that she's there to help and she beams them to Voyager. Now she wants to use her phaser to cut through damaged duratanium on the containment chamber to get at the explosive material. What could go wrong?
Yeah, that's a bad idea on so many levels.
Tuvok here points out that what they're about to do violates the Prime Directive, but she says, for the duration of this mission, the Prime Directive is rescinded. We do this all the time, we just don't say it out loud. This is like the only time anybody has said it out loud.
Yeah, she is making an official declaration rather than the normal, we just ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist.
Right. Well, and she just told it to Tuvok so he knows to not keep bringing it up. Like, I got it.
I think by this point in the episode, and Mulgrew is really good at building this, and maybe it's also the editing, but there's a real pace and energy
feels frantic.
At this point that works really well. Yes, it feels tense. It does feel frantic, and as if the clock is really ticking. And I think they managed to give a really good sense of it.
I was reading, I can't remember if it was Brannon Braga or who it was. One of the writers of Star Trek Voyager was saying that they felt like this episode had a lot of really boring parts when they're explaining sciencey stuff and, just being boring. And I was like, I could not disagree more with you. I don't think there's that much in this episode that's boring. Yes, there's exposition, but every one of these episodes needs technobabble exposition.
Right.
There's nothing different here. So I totally disagree.
Yeah.
What you're saying, I agree with. It does feel more and more frantic as we get towards the end.
Yeah.
Because I also think there's some decisions we make later that we're like, we should have chilled out a little bit and thought about this before we did it. But I get it. We're just trying to solve this problem and move on. Up on Voyager, Seven now is running her project and she's gone a bit power hungry. And she's given numeric designations to the crew.
You are 3 of 10.
In case you're not aware, this is also something that Paris Geller did on the Gilmore Girls when she becomes editor of, I can't remember, I think it was the Yale newspaper. And it's like, I can see the parallels between Paris Geller and 7 of 9. It's similar. Harry, meanwhile, not taking any of this very well.
No.
He thinks she's wasting time, turning the team into her own collective. When 7 calls him 6 of 10, he gets annoyed. Don't call me that. I admit I would also not enjoy that. But when he argues, she reassigns him, demotes him, and gets him out of her way. In comes Chakotay at this point, and Seven says the crew can be quite efficient when properly organized.
I wish there was somebody in the background shouting, "Burn!"
Oh, such a burn of Chakotay. That was great. She says the chamber will be ready within the hour. And then when Chakotay's on his way out, Harry grabs him to complain, and Chakotay tells him, "You need to adapt," and just leaves. I thought that was great.
I thought Chakotay maybe could have shown a little bit more leadership there. Harry, we're on a time crunch. Seven is the expert. The captain has specifically assigned her to this task. Follow her lead, dude.
Yeah, he could have given a better message, but what he did do was funny. Because Harry, sometimes you got to put Harry in his place.
I do think that I would probably trust Seven's ability to efficiently project manage.
Yeah, but not people manage.
Oh, no, I think a people management is exactly this. You are 6 of 10. That sort of approach. But I think she would be very good at sectionalizing the work and determining what the deliverables should be from each of the crew members.
Yeah, I think in a crunch, that's the kind of efficiency you need. Yeah. The trouble is you can't do that long term. You can't do that all the time.
Yep.
And also someone should be backing her up to make sure that she's not making efficiency decisions that put anybody in danger.
Oh,
because they would do that with the drones. So who's watching her, I guess?
Yeah, Seven's effectively said that. Mm-hmm. And plus, remember, their Borg's ability to heal also has the, you lost a hand on that. We'll regenerate you a new one.
Right. Well, Seven goes to sickbay now to talk to the survivors from the surface. The senior researcher tells her they were able to synthesize 200 million molecules.
That is a great oh crap moment.
Yeah. She's intrigued by the techniques that they were using. Then she tells him that he will assist her, and he seems on board until she says her orders are to destroy the molecules. He says this is my life's work, and the only way that his people are going to survive because their resources are nearly gone. Seven is like, well, too bad. And he tells her that other ships are on the way, and they won't let you do this. He says, you don't realize what you're doing, but she says she understands perfectly, and she leaves.
We're just going to destroy your life's work. Hope that's good.
Yeah, I do feel like we failed in negotiations several times in this episode, but Janeway can't be everywhere.
Don't use Seven for negotiations, yeah.
Down on the planet, they get the chamber open and no one is wearing any kind of protective gear, which is wild.
Oh, well, they just had the shot from the doctor, so they'll be fine.
Yeah. Yikes.
I do like the touch here of when they're looking at it, there's this blue glow.
Oh, yeah, that is cool.
And it's a nice touch because that's like Cherenkov radiation, which is the blue glow you see from open nuclear reactor pools.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. Because I do think there's a parallel. Mm-hmm. Well, inside we find the Omega particles, and Janeway says there's enough here to wipe out half the quadrant.
Exactly the oh crap moment.
She says their plan to blow it up won't be sufficient. They'll have to go with the Borg option. I wonder here, then, maybe this isn't where the explosion, the heart of it, this isn't where it took place, because it would have destroyed everything.
You could theorize that maybe they were extracting particles off to do experiments with. And what happened was the particles they extracted off,
exploded.
That's what exploded.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
And this containment area is sufficiently shielded and is safe.
Tuvok says it's too bad we can't spend more time studying this and finds it curious that Janeway, a woman of science, doesn't feel the same. She says she is a woman of science, but she's also a woman who occasionally knows when to quit. It's not something we've seen very frequently, so I guess only very occasionally.
Yep.
She says it's arrogant and irresponsible to risk so much life. The final frontier has some boundaries that shouldn't be crossed, and we're looking at one of them. That was good. That was a good line.
Oh, that was an awesome line. And I also think this kind of fits with evolved humans. She's being the opposite of, we're doing it because we can do it. She's being we're not going to do it because of the risks.
Yeah.
She's taking the time to almost do a bones and ask, should we be doing this?
Well, we talked about how this season she's very focused on getting the crew home. Yeah. And she knows that an explosion that large could not, yes, it could also kill them, but it would damage their ability to get home.
Yeah, it would render it impossible.
I think that's part of it, too.
Yeah.
Back to Voyager, Seven is telling Chuckles she now believes she can stabilize the molecule, taking some help from the alien in sickbay. Chakotay says those weren't your orders.
I like when he asks, how are you going to test it? And she just says, like everything we do, live. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, we're just going to test it on Omega. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. I do like that he kind of laughs at that. Well, she says she hasn't erased the option of being able to destroy it. That is still something she can do within that chamber. But she says this is also an option that we can stabilize it and harness it. She says she's making a personal request to try her way, and she even says, please. I mean, this is kind of a big personal request. It's not like you're asking to borrow Chakotay's car or something. When he presses her about why this is so important, she says every drone is aware of Omega's existence, and they're all instructed to assimilate it at all costs. It is perfection. Infinite parts operating as one, like the Borg. She says if she's never able to understand its perfection, her existence will never be complete.
Interesting. So this is the Borg God particle.
Well, it kind of is, because it's like this sort of deep yearning. Yeah. This thing that they are always chasing, that they've placed in the collective. And the first time I watched this, I didn't see the link between. I was like, how is this spiritual? I don't get it. And now I sort of get it. It's like, oh, this is a thing that her God has been sort of pushing into her mind for her entire life. Yeah. And so now here she's faced with an opportunity to see it, and she's no longer part of a collective, so she's got to make a decision on her own. And there's something about that is surfacing and is really driving her. And I was like, okay, I get that now. And it's kind of cool. She takes that a step farther and she says to Chakotay, you're a spiritual man. If you had the chance to see your God, what would you do? I guess we forgot that he did see them a couple seasons ago. So he says he understands and he'll inform the captain of her discovery. But for now, the order stands.
So the Borg are obsessed with it. They see it as the perfect molecule, but they don't necessarily understand enough about it. So they've raised it onto this pedestal of it being their God particle.
I think so. Yeah. They haven't found the way to make use of it yet, so it's a thing they're constantly chasing.
But they understand it's this perfect molecule.
Well, they think it is. Quite similar to how people think about God.
That is going back to, it is their holy grail.
Mm-hmm. Back to the planet, or the moon, which I guess is also a planet. And we're putting up transport enhancers to beam these particles into Seven's giant tub.
Okay. I feel this is a little bit of a hole in the episode, which they should not have done. They're going to transport the Omega particles. And the transporter works by breaking down the molecules into its subatomic particles and reassembling them. So...
yeah, it should explode.
They can use the transporter to make as many Omega particles as they want. You've now got the fabrication problem solved.
Well, at the end, Janeway says delete all data. She was going to delete all the data files related, which would also mean purging the transporter. I think more likely the transporter should have caused it to explode. There's no reason we should think we would be able to transport this particle. Right. To me, that's the bad part.
It's a molecule as well. So you're transporting its constituent atoms at a subatomic level and then reassembling them into the Omega particle shape.
It's going to explode.
Yeah, I think they should have had it be stuffing it onto
Just go get it.
A shuttle.
Take a shuttle down there and you have to put it on a shuttle. That would have been fine.
Land Voyager.
Yeah. And they could have had, the other ships could have shot at the shuttle. I mean, yeah, we could have done this differently. Yeah. I do think that's the big hole here in this story.
Yep.
Janeway also says to target the facility with the torpedo as a backup plan if things go wrong in transport. If things go wrong in transport, you guys are all dead, so it doesn't matter.
There won't be much of a ship left to shoot at the planet.
No. We hear now some ships are approaching, and they're not responding to hails. Uh-oh.
Ships from a pre-warp technology are heading towards Voyager. And the Prime Directive is off the table. This is a do-or-die mission. Why aren't you taking the ships out?
I think that's an option. They don't feel the need to do it yet.
Okay.
I think what we do later does take them out, but we pretend like it doesn't. I assume they don't see them as threats, really.
I guess they still have their Starfleet principles, so your first reaction isn't, we just take them out and write it down as tragic collateral damage.
Yeah. So we prepare to beam the particles, and we tell Seven that we need to hurry up, and she's like, that's not a good idea. But what's one more bad idea? So now we really quickly beam up the molecules, beam up the away team, and Chakotay breathes a big sigh of relief because everything's fine. We start to fly away with these two ships in pursuit, but we can't go to warp until we clear the subspace ruptures. Janeway says, surely these other ships aren't going to risk firing on us while we have Omega on board, which is like the Hirogen. Surely they won't fly into the black hole. Oh, they did.
Yeah, they won't do something that stupid.
Yes.
Plus, they have the science team and the leading scientist from this race on the ship. This is an incredibly bad idea.
Chakotay now tells the captain that Seven is convinced she can stabilize Omega, so Janeway goes to talk to Seven. Back to the cargo bay, Seven is following orders and 11% of the molecules have been neutralized. But she's found a way to control Omega. Janeway is having none of it. Seven says, I could have done this without your permission, but I chose to follow your command structure. Yes, Seven, everyone could choose to disobey, but that's not how this collective functions.
Big turning point for Seven here. She's actually following the captain's orders and trusting her.
She is.
I mean, she's pointing out, I could have done my own thing, but I'm actually following orders.
But I think, again, it's about her own destruction as well. It's different from before. But yes, it is the sort of first time that she's disagreed but still done it. Janeway says, you know I'm not trying to stop you from finding perfection, but the risks are too high and Omega must end here. She says we both know that. And Seven backs down. 18% now neutralized. Janeway's plan is to neutralize half, then use the torpedo to take care of the rest. So we're going to increase the harmonic resonance, causing the chamber to rupture, then jettison the chamber, and then torpedo it in space. This sounds absolutely crazy.
Yeah, this is full Janeway. It might be a little reckless.
Well, this is where I question, why are we in such a rush? This is the opportunity for her to go and start talking to the aliens. Yeah. She doesn't have to tell them what they're doing.
Yeah.
While Seven is in the background neutralizing all of these molecules,
right,
she goes and starts a conversation with the aliens.
Right.
But that's not what we do. Instead, we're going to make this crazy plan where let's just try neutralizing half and then we'll shoot it out into space and blow it up. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, we have all the particles and your lead scientist. A very good negotiating position.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can outgun them.
Right. This is a pre-warp civilization.
That's why I feel like, why didn't we just stop and have a conversation? But to your point, it's sort of getting more and more frantic. And I wonder if Janeway's getting more and more frantic.
She's got 200 million particles. Each one is like a warp core explosion.
On the ship. Now the other ships try a tractor beam on Voyager, and it doesn't work. So they call to say, you've stolen our technology and abducted our people. He tells Chakotay that he won't let their technology fall into enemy hands, and regardless of how bad the idea is, the aliens start firing on Voyager.
It's at this point Janeway should just call Chakotay and say, shut down these clowns.
Yes, please make them stop. And then you've got more time to get rid of the molecules. Yeah. In the cargo bay, our timeline has now shortened, of course. Suddenly, the chamber starts beeping, and the molecules are spontaneously stabilizing. Seven looks into the view screen with the blue light hitting her face, and she seems captivated by the molecules. But it's too late. We've already started decompression of the cargo bay, so Janeway drags her out. Chakotay orders the torpedo, and we blow up the molecules between the two ships and immediately go to warp. I guess killing the aliens?
So we wait to this point to screw those ships.
Yeah, just blow them up sooner then.
Right.
I don't know what we're doing. Apparently, this crazy plan worked, and the molecules are destroyed. Janeway breathes a sigh of relief, and Seven looks deep in thought.
And how much subspace did they destroy in blowing up the molecules?
Well, they made a point of saying they were in an area of space where there weren't people, where there didn't seem to be any life. So I guess as little as they could have is the answer.
Still,
but if they had neutralized all of it, they wouldn't have had this problem. So we left an environmental disaster behind where we didn't need to.
Exactly. Janeway said that 200 million would destroy warp in half the quadrant. So if they still had 40% of them left, that means it would destroy it at only just under a quarter of the quadrant.
The whole idea seems crazy. It seems crazy to blow them up when we had a way to neutralize them without blowing them up. And to your point, we could have just disabled those other ships and just sat there while we neutralized them.
It seems like blowing up something that is very destructive when it explodes is a bad idea.
Yeah, that part doesn't make sense.
You know what? The best way of defusing an atomic bomb is setting it off.
Yeah, if we just blow it up. Well, if we shoot it.
Till it blows up.
Till it blows up, it'll be fine. It won't be as bad as if it just blew up. Yeah, I don't think that's true. In a log now, Janeway says they've sent the aliens home somehow, and ultimately to their death with no resources to survive. I'm sure it's fine.
Couldn't you give them...
Hopefully they gave them something.
Right.
Yes.
Here's antimatter technology. Here's something you can do. You already said screw the Prime Directive.
Exactly. That's just what I was going to say. Yeah.
So help these people out.
Janeway closes the mission and says the data files will all be destroyed, which is too bad because it does seem like Seven had made some good progress there at the end.
And plus Seven has an eidetic memory. So
that's true.
Seven will retain all of this and more.
Yep. You can't erase that. You can't erase any of the people's memories. Well, although we have done that in Star Trek. We did that on Deep Space Nine. Yeah. Let's pretend like we haven't done that.
Gloss over that.
Janeway finds Seven in her Da Vinci program staring at a crucifix. She says she was studying the religious components of this program to try and understand what she saw in the cargo bay. For 3.2 seconds, she saw perfection. When it stabilized, she felt a curious sensation like it was watching her as she was watching it. Yeah. The Borg have always dismissed mythology of other species that try to explain such moments of clarity, but now she thinks perhaps that was wrong. And Janeway says she thinks that Seven has had her first spiritual experience. And the episode ends. Well, we've already done a lot of analysis, but I assume you have many points.
Yes. Okay, first one. So where did these guys get all this boronite from?
Yeah, I don't know.
Voyager should start by blowing up the facility where they're mining or refining it, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, and make sure that all their logs are destroyed so they can't keep doing it. Yeah, and I don't know, what did we leave behind is the question.
Because the worst potential here is, what happens if the Borg rock up to this world? Yeah. You have a source of bentonite, and you have scientists who have understanding of the technology.
Maybe they killed them all? I don't know. Maybe they wiped all their memories.
When Janeway said...
they returned them home.
She actually meant we've sent them to a farm upstate.
Yeah, we sent their bodies home.
None of them survived.
Yeah, we were out of time to explain that, but I think we should have addressed it, because what have we left behind? If they were able to synthesize 200 million of them, they still know how to do that.
Yeah, right. And kind of leading on from that, Janeway, Voyager, they're participant in basically a genocide of a species. It was going to be the salvation of these people. Their resources are almost gone. And you're taking it away from these people and just leaving them to die?
Yeah, that's why I really hope they sent them back with something, some technology to save them. I mean, at the same time, with the Prime Directive rescinded, I guess that might be the way to get rid of them. Just be like, sorry, you guys are going to die off because you were on the precipice of destroying everything, including yourselves.
Yeah. Next thing. So Starfleet seems pretty paranoid about the Omega particle. I assume they're worried about its possible weaponization, its ability to destroy warp travel. But why would we worry about that when we have coaxial warp space folding now?
Well, we don't have that.
Well, they installed it on a shuttle.
We haven't heard that it works.
Tom did get it working on Seth's ship. So now they can actually fold space.
But then why don't we just go home?
That was, I think, the problem handwave with that episode.
Yeah, they should have at the end said we couldn't get it working or something. Or it's not compatible with our technology, or it's unstable or unsafe or something.
Unstable, yeah. Those last two, I think, would be the correct one.
Yeah, well, I think if we were selfish and not Starfleet, we might think, hey, we have other technology. Who cares? But it's not the Starfleet way to cause damage. And also, if we're just sort of thinking about it in terms of environmentally, it seems bad.
That you were destroying subspace.
That we should not do that thing.
Yeah. Next thing. Starfleet's approach seems to be just pretend this doesn't exist. Keep it secret. Does this actually work?
Never.
Everyone seems to know about the Genesis device, so it didn't work in that case. Is it going to work here?
Not everyone knew about the Genesis device. He had to show them the movie about it, remember? There was a sales pitch that he had to show them.
But people know the Genesis device by this timeline in Star Trek.
Yeah, they've all seen the movie. Do they? Did we keep it secret? I don't know. I never thought about that.
Well, in Lower Decks, there was references to it.
Oh.
A bootleg Ferengi Genesis device, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Do we take that as canon that people know about the Genesis device?
I think Lower Decks is supposed to be canon. That's funny. I don't think secrets work, no, but we certainly try to keep them in Star Trek.
Because one of the things that actually happens in the real world is you end up with like the parallel evolution of theories. For example, the hydrogen bomb. The US, the USSR, and the UK came up with designs basically independently because physics had reached that point that brilliant people could make the next step or leap. And so wouldn't this be the same here? Scientists would be running into the Omega particle all the time because knowledge has reached that point that they would understand it existed, even if they couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So trying to keep it secret wouldn't really work because people would be figuring out the fundamental physics behind it.
Yeah.
And even worse, you'd end up with, if you were trying to keep it secret, that wouldn't work for any of your rivals. What if the Romulans started coming up with it? Or the Cardassians or anyone else? I think you run into the problem of when knowledge reaches a certain point, the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah. Maybe the secret was really about destroying it, if it ever appeared. Because, you can't, science is going to science.
Right. So, okay, that would be an interesting take, that they understand it as this theoretical particle. But the Starfleet mission, that's really the secret part of it.
Because 129 scientists were killed, I'm sure they all had families. So those families all know there's something weird with subspace in that location.
But how secret was the original project?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm guessing it wasn't that secret in the beginning. Because they didn't know how dangerous it was yet, perhaps.
Yes. How bad can this be?
Yeah.
Boom. Right.
So I'm going to say it's the directive that was secret.
I guess it would kind of fit, because if boronite is extremely rare, and in 200 and something years, the Borg haven't been able to find any more, then it doesn't matter what your theories are if you can't actually make it, or there's no way of producing the stuff. It is a little bit of a MacGuffin there, but I'll live with that. Next thing I want to talk about, I think B'Elanna was the one who said it about how the Borg don't learn, they just assimilate. Mm-hmm. I don't think Seven, did Seven say that?
I don't think Seven said that exact thing, no. But B'Elanna does say that when they're trying to understand species 8472.
Okay. Because it sounds here like the Borg are learning. They were pursuing these races because of this mention of this particle. And then they formulated a theory, conducted an experiment, and made revisions to those theories. So that sounds like the Borg can learn.
I don't think, just because B'Elanna said it, doesn't mean the Borg can't learn. That could be just sort of false sense of it. But I think Seven does say something, or somebody says, they're less likely to invent something from scratch than to just assimilate and adapt. So they didn't invent this from scratch, right? They found a myth about it, but not necessarily something specific. And then they kept chasing it until they found scientific evidence of it. And then they would have used the knowledge of those races that had scientific knowledge to adapt and build on that. So now they've got, they're not inventing it. They're just saying, oh, now we've got this knowledge. Now let's try to turn this into a power source. And then they failed. Yeah.
So they're using they're adapting the knowledge they have. And they keep on talking about how they assimilate and adapt.
Right.
So,
because that's even, their ships are that.
Yeah, so even going on the canon we have, they are kind of learning.
Yeah.
In a way.
Just like how they adapt to the phaser fire.
Yeah. Okay. I'll accept that. I guess the statement that the Borg don't learn is incorrect because we're seeing examples of the Borg learning.
It's hyperbole.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's anti-Borg sentiment.
Yes.
Next point, and it's just a short one. We learn that because the Borg assimilated Starfleet captains before, Seven got all the knowledge about the Omega particle. Mm-hmm. I think Janeway should sit down with Seven and say, okay, go over all the other secret stuff about the Federation, I really want to know what else is in there.
Yeah. Well, and even talk more about, I hope the two of them talk more about the Omega particle and, figure out what they would do the next time if they run into it again.
Yeah, they run into another one.
But yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's debrief a bit. What else you got in there?
Yeah. And that, I think, wraps up my overanalysis. Over to you.
Okay, I have a few things.
Go.
In an early draft of the script, Janeway allowed Seven to make the attempt to stabilize the molecules, but the attack from the alien ships forced the crew to jettison the entire batch of molecules.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been better in this story if she had let her do that.
Oh.
I think that would have maybe been a better ending.
Yeah.
But I don't know, they were so focused on creating conflict between the two of them. It's like, no, we can extend the conflict. But she had evidence that it was stabilizing. And at that point, Janeway maybe could have said, okay, fine, then stabilize. But I suppose the argument against that is even if Seven was able to stabilize it, that doesn't mean others would. So if she managed to do that and then what were they going to do? Give it to these pre-warp aliens and say, here you go? And I doubt it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think just in the story, it might have made sense if she had said, oh, okay. And then, everything went wrong. And it was.
And they had to reject it.
Yeah.
I will disagree and say, I think it works because Janeway's focused on just how incredibly dangerous this is.
Yeah.
For their entire way of life and spacefaring. And it's literally not worth the effort. Whereas Seven, I think, if you look at Seven as even being more her faith is science and tech than Janeway, then this is kind of a holy grail. This is the perfect particle that they're striving to achieve.
Yeah.
So she would be, if you like, almost the one who's being almost irrational. We're going to make it. It doesn't matter if it's going to destroy subspace. We've achieved perfection. And Janeway's being the realist.
Yeah, because even if you achieve it, it doesn't take away the danger of it. Yeah.
And this self-stabilized. What happens if it suddenly unself-stabilizes?
Right.
Boom.
Good point. So what did you think about the installation of this drive for the molecule being like humans having a drive to understand their own creation and purpose? Do you see that as a real parallel?
I saw it as the Borg mantra is they are trying to achieve perfection. The Borg Queen said, we bring other races closer to perfection.
Right.
And if there is this molecule that they view as perfect in its natural form, then I would see them being attracted to that just because it meets their definition of perfection. So maybe it's even irrational.
But is that not the same thing as religion? A drive to something bigger, something maybe you can't yet understand until you've seen it?
Religion's in the spiritual and the unknown. They're focusing on an actual physical thing.
But religion is used to explain many physical things.
Also, the point of the religions is also the unknown, to explain the unknown.
Yeah, it's about
this is
faith.
very much a known.
I'm not trying to say, is this the Borg religion? What I'm asking is, do you see the parallel between that being such a strong drive within the collective that it ends up being like a religion to the drones? Like it's something that is driving them. Because that's the only time Seven has ever talked about herself as part of the collective rather than the whole collective. So did that end up as some kind of a drive inside of them?
I think maybe only as a primary directive to all the drones. I don't really see it as a religious experience for the drones. However, what it's become to Seven since being disconnected is maybe it has actually filled a role for Seven as a matter of faith and as a matter of religious fervor or religious desire.
I do think it is a matter of faith because they'd never been able to get it to the point of perfection. Stabilizing it for 1/1,000,000,000th of a second is not perfection. So are you driving towards something that's impossible or doesn't really exist? Like, is that the myth? I guess is the question. Is that the perfection the myth?
Well, it stabilized right in front of 7.
But to your point, could have just as easily destabilized.
Yeah.
So is it perfection?
I think that's the thing. It doesn't matter if it really is perfection. The Borg just view it as perfection.
Same as religion.
Maybe, on a wacky scale, maybe that is the Borg religion. If they see this thing as it is their God particle.
I think it kind of is. I didn't see that the first time through the episode, but the second time through, I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's what happened here. Is it was just something they couldn't even control it because it was such a big thing inside the collective. It ends up being their faith.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, it's wild.
Well, it'd certainly be wild for the Borg. We seek the perfect particle.
Yeah, this one perfect thing. Okay, 2 more questions. 1.
Go.
How is blowing this thing up safe? How is beaming this thing safe? Same question. It just can't be. Neither thing can be true.
Yeah. I mean, she was causing the molecules to dissolve, I assume, to their constituent atoms.
That I will buy.
That makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense.
That makes total sense. Blowing it up with some kind of enhanced photon torpedo doesn't seem like a good way of getting rid of it.
No.
Considering it just blows up on its own just by existing.
I guess what they're trying to do is like an atom bomb, right? They're trying to blow it up to its constituent atoms. That's why I'm telling you those 2 ships who are right next to that explosion, they did not survive.
Well, in theory, subspace around there doesn't survive either, and
Correct.
A significant distance around
and I think they accepted that, and which is why I don't understand why we were so rash at the end. Yeah. Let's bring those guys on board. Let's have a conversation, or like you said, just disable those ships, and then take your time disabling or neutralizing all of these molecules.
Yeah.
And then my last item we talked about a little bit, but how do we think this race now feels about us?
I have said it before. There are 1,000 races in the Delta Quadrant.
Yep.
And their word for Armageddon is Voyager.
Voyager. Or Janeway.
Oh, Janeway is the harbinger of doom.
We left them in a bad state. It would have been great if she had said something in her log at the end of we gave them a power source or something to work on since we took away, in violating the Prime Directive, we took away their ability to advance.
Yep.
Could have said something like that because they could have had a conversation and met with them and just been like, no, this stuff will destroy everything. They could have done that too, but we really had to get the episode over, which was crazy there at the end.
Oh, completely.
Okay, women in the future, nothing to say there. Janeway's Leadership Corner, we talked a little bit about some good and bad leadership. I think it was mostly good leadership, honestly, in this episode. Yeah. Maybe we missed out on giving 7 some lessons about how she worked on her project. It's true you can get efficiencies from the team by what you did, but that can't be a long-term solution. Maybe it's only something like, imagine they created a process from what she had done and just had, named it the Borg process or something. They probably wouldn't want to do that, but they named it something specific. And then they said, Scorpion. When they needed it, they would say, okay, we're going to enact Scorpion. And in that case, here's where we're going to go Scorpion super efficient. Protocol. Everybody goes into these teams and you've all got numbered, numeric designations and boom, whatever else she implemented to make them more efficient. But I do think they should talk to her about this is not great leadership. You won't ultimately get the most out of humans doing that in the long run, even though it might work in a crunch.
And this was a very specific instance where I think that crunch mentality would work. Because you were under a clock.
Yes. But I think we have to address the human side of it with her as well.
Yeah, she continues to require training in human etiquette.
Yeah.
Being a human.
And I think the last thing I would say about leadership is actually quite like Chakotay in this episode. Yes. I thought he was a good first officer for a change.
Yeah, I thought he was a great first officer. I thought he was backing up of the captain and his speech to the captain.
Yep.
To me, that almost felt like you spent the last how many seasons talking me out of being a Marquis back into Starfleet and how we're a team and we're family. Yeah. You get this directive and your first thing is suicide mission. Yeah, I'm doing it on my own.
I'm going to fly away and never come back. I'm sorry, what?
Right. Yeah. So I think that was really good for Chakotay.
I thought that was
as the first officer, reminding the captain of the fundamentals.
I'm not sure he did a great job negotiating with the aliens because he got them firing pretty fast. But otherwise...
That didn't go well,
yeah. Otherwise, I thought he did a good job. And even Janeway's conversations with Seven were pretty good in this episode. Because she listened, she understood, rather than just threatening to confine her to quarters right away. And they worked well together, and it was interesting.
This is a much better interaction between Seven and Janeway, and how Janeway needs to treat Seven. I do still think that Janeway should be pointing out, you're not Borg, you are human, you are us, the we. I think that needs to be emphasized.
Well, we've been recording a long time, so I'm going to go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Okay. Now, back in the day, I hated this episode. I really didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the idea of this particle, the way they were behaving, the Omega Directive.
You thought it broke the Borg canon?
I thought it just didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I have not watched this episode very many times because I really just didn't like it. Anyway, fast forward a long period of time. Many more watchings of The Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock, both which deal with the Genesis device. Plus Discovery and events like the mycelial network and the jump into the future of other things that are kept secret within Starfleet.
Yep.
So I think those things have actually improved my viewing of this episode. That Starfleet does have these kind of secrets, that there are things that they keep quiet.
Like Section 31, even.
So it doesn't make this episode seem so outlandish. I get more of an appreciation for it.
Mm-hmm.
The humanization of Seven, her relationship with Janeway improving in terms of she'll now actually follow orders. And I think the idea of the episode is kind of cool as well.
Yeah.
So my views on the episode, my feelings for the episode have changed quite significantly. So it has turned from an episode that I really didn't like to, I really enjoyed this. This is absolutely a thumbs up. There's some other things that maybe I missed in the episode, and this rewatch certainly has brought out the feeling of tension that they managed to build. And the way, as you described it, frantic.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like there is pressure on these people. So a 180 from where I was to an absolute thumbs up. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Good episode.
Okay. And yeah, you had warned me before I watched it that wasn't an episode that you liked. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't, of course, remember it because what do I ever remember? And then I'm watching it and I thought, what's wrong with this episode? It's perfectly good. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up. Is it perfect? No.
Oh, no.
I mean, we talked about all the hand waves that sort of had to go on and the things that maybe we would have done a little bit differently. But overall, it's very entertaining, and it's a good balance between Seven and Janeway because they had to work together, and they had good conversations about it. And Seven, of course, again, reached that sort of teenagey point where she's like, I don't have to do what you say. Like, I'm choosing to do it.
Yes.
And it's like, right, but that's also a moment of growth for her because she did do what the order was in the end. But we learned a little bit that, she does retain a lot of information, but not everything that happens within the collective. So, we learned some things. There was a little bit of humor with Harry, and it wasn't creepy and weird, and that was pretty good.
They finally wrote something good for Harry that worked.
Yeah, so this is a perfectly legitimate Star Trek episode. I liked it. Thumbs up. Okay, that wraps up Season 4, Episode 21. Come back next week for Episode 22. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and YouTube at ReBingeIT. And we're on the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.